Chapter 6 Journey to the Dark Reaches. After making my way through the swing doors leading into Honeydale Hospital's emergency corridor, I continued down the sterile hallway towards emergency room number 8. The marker above the door shone with a red light, indicating active procedure. The signal markers above all of the other rooms showed green lights, adding to the uneasiness that slowly crept into my mind. I went into the observation area, separated from the main emergency room by a window, and watched through the glass as the nurse gave the man some shots. She then used a machine linked to a nebulizer inhaler to provide the down-and-out individual with fresh oxygen. The man was out cold, but his irregularly twitching fingers told me that he was alive at least. As I examined the skills of the talented nurse, I suddenly heard a strange noise from the hallway behind me. I quickly positioned myself up against the wall and peeked out through the doorway up and down the long emergency corridor. The only things taking up space in the corridor were some gurneys and a couple of waiting chairs. I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary in the hallway, so I instead turned my attention on the events inside the emergency room. A strange puppet in the corner of the room piqued my interest as I observed the scene from the other side of the observation window. The haunting man-sized figure stood silently in the corner of emergency room 8. I wasn't really sure about its allegories, but its visage and penetrating gaze somehow crept under my skin. It was almost as if it was eyeing me personally. I dried some sweat off my brow and tried my best to focus on the nurse and her treatment of the wounded man instead. After working for yet a while, the nurse drank a glass of water and then continued with the procedure. The man was slowly coming back, and through the slightly ajar door leading into the emergency room itself, I could hear him talking to the nurse. His near-silent words were incoherent, but the nurse's answers were all the more clear. "No, you must rest. You took a heavy blow and may have suffered some internal bleeding. I think you'll feel better soon, but you need to rest after I'm done. What's your name, by the way?" she asked, and tenderly clutched the man's hand, whereupon she crouched down by the operating table. I could see the man turning his head towards the nurse to speak, but still couldn't hear his words. The nurse then repeated his name. "Well, Adrian, I'm sure you'll be back to your old self in no time. You sure were lucky that I saw you when I did, though." While talking to the nurse, the man suddenly looked up from the operating table, and it wasn't long before his wandering gaze fell upon me. The look he gave me was that of a scared man, and his jumpy eyes exuded an impression I interpreted only as fear. I was just about to enter the room and ask him about his reaction when another sound caught my attention. Yet again, it came from the emergency hallway. The noise was that of a loud thump, as if something had fallen to the ground. This time around, I left the emergency room to try and get a better picture of the whole corridor. At the end of the hallway, just in front of the revolving doors leading into the western wing, laid a sealed black body bag. The bag was completely motionless, but judging by the size of it, I assumed that someone or something was trapped inside. Ignoring the nurse and the wounded man, I found myself involuntarily drawn to the body bag. I carefully made my way towards it with cautious steps. The bag was still static, and I grew more and more anxious the closer I came. I grabbed a metal pipe placed on one of the stretchers and prepared to poke at the bag to determine its contents. I was only 4 meters away from the bag when a deafening alarm-like sound broke the tense atmosphere. I impulsively dropped the metal pipe to the floor and covered my ears in an attempt to keep the thunderous noises outside. The lights above the emergency rooms then suddenly started to flash green and red at the same time as the fire extinguishers on the walls fell out of their holders and started to spew out foam on their own accord. The ground started to shake, and the wheeled stretchers began to roll back and forth. Before I knew it, something abruptly tore open the swing doors leading into the hospital's west wing. There was an immense darkness beyond the doors, but apart from that, I wasn't able to discern anything else. I then helplessly keeled over and fell to my knees. The alarm sounds and the many objects flailing around me nearly brought me to tears as I let out a roaring scream. I forced myself to look in the direction of the doors leading to the west wing. The only thing I saw was a large black hand grabbing the body bag and pulling it through the doorway, whereupon the revolving doors flew back and forth in asymmetrical motions. The creature inside the body bag started to flounce and scream with an agonizing plea for help as it was drawn into the darkness beyond. I wanted to help the creature trapped within, but everything fell dead silent before I even had the chance to react. What's going on?" I stutteringly asked myself and shook my head in dismay. With the aid of my trembling legs, I stood up and examined the corridor to see what effects the sudden shake had caused to the west wing hallway. I was utterly surprised to see that all the stretchers were fastened to the walls with metal chains and locked down with padlocks. The fire extinguishers were also sitting firmly in their holders, and the signal markers above the emergency rooms were all still green but the one above room 8. From out of the emergency room, the nurse came running towards me and instantly inquired about what had just happened. "I heard you screaming. Are you all right?" "Yes, I think so." "Didn't you feel the ground shaking?" "No, I just heard you yelling all of a sudden and came to check up on you. The lights went out for a few seconds, but the backup generator must have kicked in. Are you sure you don't want to lie down for a while?" she asked and looked at me with a genuinely worried expression. "I'm fine, thank you. I can take care of myself, really," I stated, and thanked her for offering to help me. "In that case, would you be willing to help me?" she asked abruptly. "It's okay if you don't want to, but I can't use the workbench computer to document the man's condition with only the backup generator running. It only powers equipment considered bare necessities for hospital procedure. We've also had some problems with the phones recently. I think it has something to do with the generators as well. I'll see what I can do, but I think there's someone who needs my help somewhere through here," I said and pointed at the revolving doors leading into the west wing. "Really?" she asked with a surprised intonation. "Well, it's up to you. I think I can manage with the equipment powered by the backup generator. I'm sorry, but I have to get back to him, if that's okay with you." "Yes, of course. Go. I believe I'll manage to take care of myself from here on out." "Well, good luck then," she said hesitantly and returned to emergency room 8. Having regained my balance, I grabbed the metal pipe lying on the floor beside me and took up the flashlight. With cautious steps, I made my way through the revolving doors into Honeydale Hospital's darkened west wing. The rusty door hinges creaked soundly, indicating a period of neglect. The sound from the doors combined with the terrifying atmosphere on the other side made me wonder if this was even worth it. The beam from my flashlight was the only thing that gave me some comfort as I stepped into the disturbingly derelict area ahead. Only a few measly lights shone from the other side of a window leading into an examination room to my right. The stretchers inside the examination room were all empty save for one, where a skin-colored mannequin doll lay silently, tied down by white strap bands. Upon further examination of the area ahead, I saw that the way forward was blocked by construction equipment and the kind of wooden partition walls erected during a renovation. A scribbled text written with bold black letters on one of the partitions added to my uneasiness. It read, "May the siren songs lead you home." Through a hole in one of the partitions, I gleaned the feet of some dark creature heading deeper into the complex. I couldn't make out any apparent features aside from its black hand, but the event ascertained my fears that it held onto the body bag I had seen earlier. The familiar chiming sound of an elevator opening then caught my attention, and the area beyond the hole was lit up by the strip lighting inside the elevator. I was thankful that whoever programmed what would be counted as necessities had included the elevators. The creature disappeared from my line of sight, and so did the light from the elevator. As the doors closed to the creaking sound, the area fell into darkness again. I checked around for possible routes to get to the elevator and first considered smashing the window into the examination room, but soon found an unlocked door to my left. A white sign on the door stated that I was about to enter the patient belongings room. Beneath the sign was a taped note, scribbled with a short text that read, "Your mothers don't work here. Clean up your own mess. Manager of Sanitation, Brent Harolds." After a slight chuckle, I went through the doorway with a metal pipe held high in case I needed to defend myself. The belongings locale looked very much like a locker room with a multitude of some open and some closed cabinets. I also saw some name signs placed in small holders on some of the lockers. My heart skipped a beat when I came across a cabinet with the name A. Williams written in poor handwriting. The resemblance to my own writing style was uncanny, so I instantly tugged the handle and opened the locker. The interior was doodled by some kind of colored chalk, and the crayoning depicted a series of arrows pointing towards something attached to the wall in the back of the locker. I noticed a small note fastened to the metal frame with a small piece of masking tape. I found myself intrigued by the note and read its text after tearing it off the back wall. "Their watching eyes are everywhere. We can never escape their gaze. I've thankfully been able to hide the secret on floor 2. Follow the music box melody. The prima ballerina holds the key to your heart, be it dark or pure. Good luck, Hannah P." I held on to the mysterious note and continued on my way through the untidy belongings room towards the exit at the other side. I managed to get through the hard-to-pass-by areas to the hospital's west wing on the first floor and soon found myself standing by a set of stairs beside the elevator. The paths leading up and down were barricaded by solid stone walls, though. Who would block up the hospital like this? I was thankful that the elevator still worked and pushed the button as soon as I could. After a short while, the doors opened with a wheezing sound and allowed for passage inside. I turned off the flashlight to conserve battery power and then went into the lit-up elevator and checked the buttons to see which floors were at my disposal. The button to the first floor was shining, indicating that this was my current location. The button to the third floor was smeared with blood, suggesting that this was the destination of the creature I had seen before. I contemplated my options and thought long and hard about which floor I should investigate.